Hello everybody, this is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to do a little video for you tonight I think you're going to find real interesting. And what we're going to talk about is the police being at my home 39 days before the murder attempt. I'm going to show you the police report and I'm going to tell you that story. And then also I think it's related. We're going to talk about the protective order hearing and some of the information that come out of that because it's all tied together. I want to get in front of the video just for a second here to let you know I was here, and then we'll look at the computer. Okay, like I was just telling you, we're going to talk about the police being at my home 39 days before the murder attempt. I think this is a real important story. What I want to show you here is when my attorney subpoenaed all the police records before the protective order hearing in December 2013. I saw a report that I didn't realize was created, and it was this one right here. There's the incident number, and look at the time on it. Is it like 7:13? And there's really nothing there telling it. They just created it, put my name, advised, non-emergency, etc. Okay, and I think what it was is maybe some of the planning for what happened, because let me show you here what happened. So that was at 7:13. This non-report was filed. Okay, here's the main one right here that I'm talking about tonight. Is this report number there, and it was at 7:18, 5 minutes later. Okay, so let me explain to you what was going on this night. I went to work, and I come home from work. The ex-wife was here. We were married at that time, and I couldn't find my gun. I was worried about that. I thought the people breaking into my home, the burglars, may have stolen my gun. I was upset. I was looking everywhere, and I was also suspecting that at that time that ex-wife might be connected. Okay, and so anyways, she calls the police to my home. There really was no reason whatsoever, I mean at all, for the police to be called. But so I'm waiting here for the police to get here, and I'm going through my cell phone, and I'm looking at all these crazy text messages from her from the last few days. The police come to my house. I calmly, they come in the front door, and what's going on, Mr. Webb? And I said, here, let me show you on my phone these text messages, to show him these crazy messages from her in the last few days. And he slapped the phone out of my hand. Okay, surprised me, handcuffed me, and then walked me out the door, and then took me down the street in the dark and put me into the back of a police car. As I'm getting into the police car, I notice a bag of marijuana already laying in the back seat of the car where they're putting me. Okay, the threat of being framed for drugs was extremely clear. About that time, another police officer showed up, and this guy had glasses, and I recognized him from a police call from just a couple weeks earlier when the ex-wife had threatened suicide. Okay, and so I'm like, you remember me? You understand? If anybody's crazy here, it's not me, right? She just threatened suicide a couple weeks earlier. We get, so sitting in the car, what's happening, Mr. Webb? I'm telling them that people are breaking into my house, repeated breaking into my house. I offer to show them evidence. Let's go in the attic. I'll show you evidence. And they didn't want to do that. They refused to look at any evidence that I had, and they told me, we better not be called over here again for this stuff. It was real obvious what they're telling me, that if the police were called over here again, they were going to frame me for drugs. And that was clear as day. Okay, that's what was going on. And interestingly, when I first looked at this house in 2008, my realtor Janine Pruitt told me that Mike Lawhon, the previous young owner, was incarcerated for drugs. And then a couple weeks later, when she called and told me he overdosed, I didn't think anything about it, because they set up a document trail. That's what the name of this video is going to be, a document trail, because that's what they taught. I'm going to tell you here in a minute what the ex-wife said. And so anyways, they leave. I come back in the house, and the ex-wife tells me, we're creating a document trail on you. That was her exact words. Okay, and this is 39 days before my phone lines are cut and I'm ambushed and shot. And so I've wondered if the police were planning my murder even back then, a document trail. I think it's a fair question to ask. I think these police officers need to be asked by federal law enforcement officers, because because I'm promising you, they put me in the back of the car with a bag of marijuana. The absolute fact, okay? I believe they knew about the underground home in the backyard that was hosting international oil show parties. I bet they knew about the young girl that was murdered at the 2010 oil show party that had police there. They probably knew that Mike Lawhon was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. They probably knew about the 4 murders I was told happened in my house. And so basically they're telling me you better not be calling the police for crimes at your house when crimes were being committed against me every single day. So basically 39 days later, when my phone lines are cut and burglar alarms are going off over and over and over in my attic, I didn't call the police. Why? Because these cops threatened me. That's why. Okay, let me show you the police report. Here's a timestamp I already showed you. 11:18, okay, and here's the entry, okay. Complainant advised that her husband buddy came home and told the wife that someone's been getting in their house and stealing stuff. She's been letting them in. Complainant advised that he hit his firearm, claimed that she stole it. Complainant advised that the husband is going crazy. He's currently being treated for ADHD. That how crazy he is. He's being treated for ADHD, and complainant is Rec 1017. I don't know what that is. I need to find out what that is. So, okay, and so anyway, here's the weather. Whatever. Here's the officers that need to be questioned, asked by federal law enforcement officers under oath to see what they know about underground homes where they rape and murder little girls at parties. Blake Bush and Trent Sellers. They're the 2 police officers that were at my home that night. One of them was at the previous call a few weeks earlier when the ex-wife had threatened had threatened suicide. Okay, and here's clear verbal only, male, half extremely 1096. That's the modus operandi around here when they're covering up crimes and murders. They call the crime victims crazy. They have destroyed my life with these lies, calling me crazy when I'm a crime victim. Okay, they advise they will be separating outside the household, and that's the other thing, because I made up my mind that night. I said it's over, and I told the ex-wife that I said it's done. I'm finished. This date here was right 5 days before Christmas. We separated about the 30th, 10 days later. I was done. I was finished with that. That ended that. Okay, here, let me show you. Now we're going to go over just some of the evidence that we've seen many times before. Okay, Google Earth Maps here showing Google Maps, where you would go to Google Maps, you put in my address, and in the backyard show a large bunker and the map screen, but it wouldn't show it above ground on the satellite screen. Okay, multiple people documented saying underground homes are here. One of them was running for sheriff at the time. Another person said she worked on this job, named how many bedrooms, how much it cost, what the name of the project was, all kinds of details from all kinds of different people. Right here behind the Home Depot store, it looks like they cut a ditch coming directly to my house. I believe that was used by the people going to the oil show parties, and the oil show parties were in the underground homes. And with one of them in my backyard right there, I was told there are 4 of them, and so that means there's 3 other underground homes somewhere. It was a $7 million project when it was put in. That's where it's believed a young girl was murdered at in 2010. Just some other facts here, because to ask these police officers about, right? Blake Bush and Trent Sellers. Aaron Packelhofer told me 4 people had been murdered, died in my house. So I highly suspect that those police officers know something about it that put me in the back seat of the car, okay? Okay, here we go. Aaron said 4 people murdered my house. Here's some of the people that I suspect, okay? Rini Escobar Sanchez went missing 3 months before Mike Lawhon died. Okay, Mike Lawhon died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and then I moved in about a week or 2 later and bought this home. Okay, Rini went missing 3 months before. A neighbor, Marilyn DeLucci, told me twice that Mike died in my house. One time she says, "I should know, right?" And then she also said somebody else died here before him. And then confirming that was Aaron Packelhofer, that said 4 people have been murdered and died in my house. Okay, and then in 2010, the remains of a young girl was found outside of Midland. Okay, I've suspected that was the girl Angie told me about was murdered at the oil show party, and I believe that happened in the underground homes, with one of them located in my backyard. Okay. And so we're trying to count these people, many people been murdered, and suspecting that Trent Sellers and Blake Bush know about that since they put me in the back of that car, okay, with a baggie of marijuana. Here is when I'm crawling out. Why did I crawl out? Because they cut my phone lines before they shot me. They tried to kill me in my home. This was premeditated murder. And I'm just one guy. You know, they've been killing people right and left. Let me show you something else. There's so much, different pieces of evidence here. This is from a friend that asked me to keep her anonymous, but she was telling me there's underground game room here where the high officials go. That's what I suspected was underground. I used the underground homes before. It was a money maker, illegal casino, brothel, prostitution, etc. Okay, and she's telling me there's a game room here that all the high officials go to, and bet money, and win money and whatever else they do down there, which is prostitution, drugs, drinking, etc. Okay, and that isn't the only person that has suggested or said that. Okay, let's talk about Mike Law in a minute, the guy that died here before I moved here, the week before the 2008 oil show started. 27 years old. And I was just telling somebody today on Facebook, they asked me, how did Mike die? And I said it was the medical examiner's record said a propoxyphene intoxication. That was Darvocet. I looked that up on the medical archives, and it showed that it's a rare poisoning. And I think maybe the ex-wife had told me there's a group of doctors that kill people for profit, and maybe they know something about that. The Odessa American posted a death notice for Mike and said he died in Fort Worth. 4 days later, they posted a second death notice, changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. And I suspect he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. Then the home was sold to the next sucker so they could start on me, and that's what they did. And here's what he died of: acute propoxyphene hydrochloric intoxication. In this here, it's Darvon's what it says. Here it'll tell you that it's rare poisoning. Okay. They ended up taking that off the market. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about, like I said, is the court case in 22 months after the murder attempt. The ex-wife filed a protective order on me, and I hadn't seen or talked to her in a year and a half, and she lived over 100 miles away. That's not what protective orders are for, right? And she's calling me stalker, crazy, all kinds of lies. Her, making up lies, blatant lies. Perjury in court is what it was, and it's smearing my name. Oh, he's crazy. He thinks people in the attic. And back then, I didn't have 50 other homeowners documenting reporting in the attic, And it comes out in court that her lifelong friend was dirty cop detective Rosie Rodriguez. They both testified here. Rosie Rodriguez perjured herself in court. I'm going to show you here in a minute. That's why we're going to go over some of the court testimony from that court, which talks about, comes back to what was happening 39 days before the murder attempt, when Trent Sellers and Blake Bush was at my house. Okay, here we go. This is the court testimony, 318th Judicial Court, cause number, etc., December 18, 2013. Okay, and question: did you make allegations that you believed her daughter was in this sex ring as well? I said I didn't. Ms. Clack says, Your Honor, I'm going to object. He didn't say he thought she was in a sex ring. Miss Jewett, and I'll rephrase, Miss Jewett. This is Stacy Jewett, the ADA. Did you believe or did you ask Mrs., the ex-wife, whether or not her daughter was a prostitute? I said, no. Dr. so-and-so said that she felt guilty because she got her daughter involved. I went to say, and here she says, objection, abstain, objection. And what the ADA was doing was trying to keep the truth from coming out in court. That's exactly what she's doing. Because what I was going to say and what we had proof of, because we subpoenaed this doctor's records. I was sitting in this doctor's office when that doctor asked the ex-wife that, or told the ex-wife, reminded her, remember that time that you got your daughter involved in prostitution and you felt guilty? Because I found out it wasn't the first time that she had tried to commit suicide. The reason we were at this doctor's is because she had tried to commit suicide, and that happened right before the police were at my house, and I mentioned that. That's why that's here. That's why I'm showing you that, okay? And did you ever ask her or not whether her daughter was a prostitute? And I said no. Okay, so but I wanted to tell you that's what I heard that doctor said. I tried to get it in court, and the ADA wouldn't let me. Did not want the truth, and your district attorney, assistant district attorney, did not want the truth to come out in court. Okay, here's more. Okay, now has so-and-so ever indicated that she didn't want to have any contact with you? I said, no, not that I know of, not until I got this order. Okay, I hadn't talked to her in a year and a half. Now, previously, you said that you had suspected her of being a prostitute. Do you recall in December of 2011 speaking to her about that? I said, yes, there was a few conversations, and we did, like I say, argue over this point several times. She come in one day and she said, they pay you by the hour, the minute, or the day, and I just worked 2 days and I'm tired. Another conversation, and by the way, she's a nurse, an RN, so she isn't paid by the minute. Also, if you want to say accused her of breath of smelling like semen, And then another conversation that was referenced in the order was, oh, I want to know who the pimps, the tricks, and the drug dealers are. And she said, it's a family business. Okay. That's more courtroom testimony. Okay. Here's another one coming in court that I think is important, okay? And it says, but you posted on Facebook about how you think your ex-wife's involved in the murder attempt of your life. I said, I don't believe I did post that. Well, then what did you post? I said, well, I know one post. Let's see. Is that, I told me she came in one day and she seemed upset. And she said real quietly, she said, the secret is that a group of doctors are killing people for profit, Well, what she never told me the entire time we was married is that her brother-in-law was a doctor. I will say that she's the one who told me that after the fact. She pointed out on my medical records after I was shot, but I would never have known that otherwise, that she pointed it out. Okay, and so it come out in court, and she absolutely told me that, and now it's proven that my X-rays were faked at the hospital, and her brother-in-law was the ER doctor. Okay. They bring up my mom. I thought this was pretty low life. My mom, there's still unanswered questions about my mom. I made videos that talked about that, and that's what this is here. It says, I'm asking, what was your part in the breaks in my house, the death of my mom, and the murder attempt on my life? Basically, this whole thing says you're a stalker because you sent 2 emails in 18 months. That was their whole basis for the stalking accusations, And you know how many people, you stalked your ex-wife, and they're talking about 2 emails in 18 months, 2 non-threatening emails. And one of these emails where I sent the ex-wife and I asked her what was her part in the break-ins of my house and the deaths of my mom, and of course the murder attempt on my life. And then I was asked, now what was the death of your mom have to do with it? I said, there was some unanswered questions that was with me at the time, but there were some, some unanswered questions that come out of the death of my mom that I actually reported to the police department in Hobbs and to the sheriff's department. And so this was 7 weeks before I was shot. And so I wondered if it had any involvement with the death of my mom. There was a lot of phone calls made, over to Hobbs the day that mom died. She had me call my mom an hour before my mom died, and so but was absolutely with me. But she was absolutely with me. She wasn't there. I'm not saying she was there. She was here. Okay, but did they try to go over there? Barely knew my family. We had just married 3 months earlier. She had tried to go over to Hobbs that day, the day that my mom died, and I wasn't okay with it. And earlier that day at lunch, she made the comment, I'm going to your parents' house. So that gets brought up in court, what happened to my mom. Now remember, I'm telling them police officers about what happened to mom, Here's a big surprise in court right here. My attorney notices that the ex-wife is sitting right, next to dirty cop Rosie Rodriguez before court, and they're visiting like they're sisters, And so just out of the blue, ask her, says, do y'all know each other, And under testimony, yes, ma'am, how do you know her? We went to school, and I guess elementary and junior high together. They went to grade school together. They've been friends all their life. This is the dirty cop that tampered tampered with evidence and falsified police reports. And you'll see in a minute, she perjured herself in court. Rosie Rodriguez did. Aggravated felony perjury. Okay? And I want to show you here, the ex-wife took my life insurance books just a few weeks before the murder attempt, showing that if her friend Rosie Rodriguez would rule my murder an accident, it would add 2 years base pay and another $250,000. There was a $500,000 going to be added to the life insurance if her friend Rosie Rodriguez would rule my murder an accident. Cameras get brought up in court. You know, the ex-wife, you say, them cameras hurt you more than they help you. This was before I proved they were hacking the camera system. Now I have a video goes, why hasn't anybody seen on camera? There's absolute one there. I gave that video to law enforcement, proving they hacked my security systems, and they're using this to murder people in their homes. And I have a feeling Rosie Rodriguez, that ADA, knew that, and that's why they brought that up in court. And there's no telling how many crimes and murders been committed using them hacks like that. Okay, here's another part of the court transcript. Detective Rose Rodriguez testifies that she called the ex-wife. Did you call her on her cell phone? Yes, ma'am, I did. Okay, so the detective, dirty cop, testifies under oath she called the ex-wife. But the ex-wife goes to court and says, nope, that's not what happened. Jennifer, who's my oldest daughter, called her and told her to call Rosie Rodriguez. Okay, and so right off, one of them was lying. We know that right off the bat. You know, they couldn't even get their story straight. I got a lifetime protective order. Okay, and that's the one I had. That's what resulted in it. I got a lifetime protective order. I was telling somebody just a minute ago, I lost my right to own guns for life, my Second Amendment rights. Okay, and I've never had a felony. Okay, at all. It was based on lies told by this ex-wife and her dirty cop friend is what happened. And like I said, what I really believe is they were trying to terrorize me into moving out of my home. And the reason is because they're trying to cover up the murders that happened at my home. That would leave me disabled, defenseless, living under the threat of death, people being breaking in my house, and the police allowing the crimes against me. And you know, they want me out of this home. They're trying to get me out of this home. And so that, I think that was the real reason. But the real truth is, after I was shot, my guns were at the evidence at the police station. I didn't go get them. They were there and it was 22 months later when this court case happened. I didn't even have guns. I didn't go get my guns. My dad wanted me to go down there and get them, and I wouldn't get them because one, they were saying I shot myself with my own gun, and that hadn't happened. I didn't want to be killed with my own gun and have these dirty cops lie about it, so I didn't have guns. So then they take away my right to own gun for life, and I didn't even have any guns. I actually hadn't even shot a gun in 30 years. It's proven I didn't even shoot myself. I mean, that's what's going on here. So I just want to show you this, how important this is. We're creating a document trail on you. This is here on December 20th, 2011. Blake Bush, Trent Sellers. It looks like they were planning my murder in advance. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.